My name is Mitchell Russell, and this is my testimony. This is my reason why I decided to transform my life and change just a bit for those who are confused, who've been around for a while. Kind of wanted to explain myself, and not only that, hopefully in doing so, other people could be inspired or just get something from this. First, I'll start off by just saying a bit about me and where I'm from. I was born in Ohio with my mom and dad, and they had me when they were pretty young. And my mom, passed away when I was young, and that was pretty hard on my dad. He didn't handle it well, so just got deep into drugs and alcohol, in and out of jail kind of stuff, and that forced my grandma to take custody. That forced my grandma to take custody of me and raise me until I was 13, and then I moved back with my dad to Arizona. Things were good for a bit. He was in a good place, and then it started not being so good. He started having some of his old habits and stuff like that. So family CPS stepped in and stuff like that. Due to a lot of that hurt as a kid, I kind of got involved with the wrong crowd, as they say. Started ditching school and just I see it as trying to distract myself. I feel like I was trying to numb myself, drugs and alcohol, or just whatever, preoccupy my mind. And that led me, like I said, around the wrong people, doing the wrong things, getting in trouble, places I had no business in. I would say I kind of stayed in that lifestyle for a while. I've always been a somewhat responsible guy, but when I got older, because I felt like I had no guidance really, and due to certain things that happened to me when I was younger, I guess I just had a low self-esteem. And so when I got older, I needed income. So one of the fastest ways to get income at a young age was to start, dancing. Kind of went down that road for a while, and I did music for a while, but I kind of made my focus of my brand like this, dancer, stripper, rapper, and it was, for me, it was working. I was getting booked. It seemed like I was gaining a fan base, and everything was going well. I was in my personal life, I was working, bartending and dancing, and then doing the music. So I had a lot going on, and it seemed like things were going great. Around, I think, 2022, I had just gotten a new car. I was like saving up a lot of money, just bought a house with my ex, and working, doing my 3 jobs that I had. So everything was going great at the time. And I guess around 2022, stuff started to hit the fan, as they say. So yeah, around 2022, the management at the bartending job I was working at kind of changed, um, forcing me to leave, try to find something better. It took me a really long time to find something to replace that job consistently. So I leaned into dancing heavier at the time. I decided I was going to divorce my spouse that I was with at the time, taking on, moving, a lot of financial hardship, legal troubles. And, as you can see, it just kind of seemed like things were going downhill. I felt like I had a lot of friends kind of pulling snake moves on me, turning their back on me, kind of thing. See, I ended up, since I was dancing a lot, I was drinking a lot, because it's one of those jobs that's kind of hard to do sober. Personally, I would say, you're in a room with like 100 people, sometimes just wearing a thong, or less than that even. So you tend to get a little drunk, sometimes, or drink a little bit, kind of take the edge off, you could say. I ended up getting in some legal trouble while going through my divorce. It just seemed like things were going to hell in a handbasket real quick. So I was at one of those rock bottom moments, you could say, and as anyone should, it just forced me to kind of look in the mirror and ask myself why is all this happening? Ask God why, and ask myself, and just look inside and realize some of my ways, realize that I was working in a toxic work environment, realize that I was surrounding myself with toxic people and friends. You know, I had probably not picked such a great partner, which is why I had to divorce them. And it seemed like most of the things that were happening to me at the time were kind of my own fault, you know. I had just done a lot of reflecting during those times. I took like a social media break. I, started reading books again, talked to my dad for the first time in like 5 years, and just kind of saw him not so much as a dad who had done every little thing I had always held against him, but I just kind of looked at him as a person and as someone that's had stuff done to him too, and not really trying to make excuses. But I think ultimately I was in the mindset of, if I don't let it go, I'm not going to be able to grow as a person if I wasn't able to let go of the grudge. So I looked into my family history. My mom's side of the family has always kind of been like a mystery a little bit. So I did the whole ancestry and all the records and looked into stuff and just, discovered some family that I didn't know. And just all this reflection kind of got me closer to God, to be honest. Brought me back to God because I needed help. I needed help with my life, and no one could have helped me where I was at besides God, for sure. And I just felt like he helped give me a plan. He helped inspire me. Anyone who doesn't know, like, the story of Jesus is a beautiful story, and it's for everyone. It's for people who've been sinners and who have done probably worse things than me. I was happy that I could be transformed and changed into a new person. I was inspired to go back to school. I started reading books. I, started consciously thinking about what kind of relationships I want to have around me and what people I'm going to surround myself with. Not saying I'm perfect of every second of every day, but I certainly live for a higher purpose now. I was inspired to go back to school after dealing with all those legal battles and winning. Thank God I was able to go back to school and become a real estate agent. Now I'm a realtor in the state of Arizona, and it's just been a long journey. And I'm not trying to get on here and brag and get a bunch of compliments, but I really think that someone could learn from my story. I think there's people out there. I mean, I know there's people out there who are in the same position I was in. I personally know people who are in the position I was in. They've had some of the problems I've had. They're gonna know what I'm talking about when they hear this. And I would just say that anyone could change. It's never too late. And it's not about like quitting or saying you can't do something. For me, it was about deciding I could do something better. Like I said, I had a low self-esteem as a kid, and some of the things I went through, after a while, I felt like my body and my looks was one of the quickest and most valuable ways for me to make money. That's just not the case. Maybe my looks could certainly help draw people in for me to help them, or this or that. I'm good at communicating with people and things like that. I think some of the things I used to use in that life can still be used on my new path forward. I just felt it was necessary to share my story to possibly anyone who feels like they might be considering a change. I think you should go for it. I think you never know what's in store on the other side for you. It's probably so much more than you've ever imagined. I mean, it sounds a little cliche, but I feel like every day is a gift because I never thought I was worthy of being in this position. You know what I mean? I always thought I was less than and stuck with that lifestyle that I was kind of thought I was meant to be in. And I mean, I would just say it's a blessing, and that's what I've come to think the point of life is how can you use what you're good at or what's your skills to help other people and to be of service. One thing that really, really helped me see what was actually going on is that social media break. I think our world is so busy and it distracts us so much. We can hardly realize what's going on sometimes, like all around us. It's almost like we're on like autopilot. You know what I mean? Until you realize that and you wake up out of that. I would say clear your mind. It's almost like think critically. It's like, okay, you have anxiety about a situation. Ask yourself, why do I have anxiety about this? Why is this bugging me? Well, it's probably because this, and this. You know what I mean? Well, I went to church when I was younger as a kid. I was, into it as a kid, and I kind of drifted off in my adult and teen life. And I always felt a little guilty about it. I did. I always felt like I should be praying every night. You know what I mean? I felt like I should at least be at church on Christmas. And I wasn't always. And so I just kind of knew that's where I should be. Honestly, I don't know if distrusting a lot of people made it easier to trust God. You know what I mean? Because God is stern in his ways. He is, and you'll learn that if you have a relationship with him, but you can trust him. Like, it's like what he tells you and what it says in the Bible and what you learn about him is true. And it doesn't switch up like a lot of people. Form those healthy habits. Listen to healthy things. Listen to inspiring things. Listen to good music. Listen to music that has purpose. Listen to podcasts that make you want to go change the world. You know what I mean? I have dogs. I spend more time with my dogs. They're my kids, and go to church more often. You know, I'm a believer that you should have your own relationship with God, but if you can find a church where you feel at home and you know the teaching is good, it's so good to have that at the same time. To have a community with God, it's a lot stronger. Reading self-help books, not necessarily self-help books, but things that you know will help you, things that are going to make you think about yourself, what you're doing, and what result that's going to be. Ultimately, that's kind of my story, and I hope that someone really gets something out of it. And you guys it's also to kind of, I understand it's a dramatic transformation. You know, let's address the elephant in the room. But it's genuine, it's me, and I feel like I want to tell you guys, because what better of a person to tell you why you shouldn't go down that road than the person who went down that road and realized she should go all the way back. You know what I mean?